Hi, everybody. Welcome to Cervena Barva Press in the reading series. If you are not on our mailing list, in the chat, I have my email. So please email me and I'll put you on the list. I do not share emails with anybody unless I have permission. So you're safe that way. The press is 17 and a half years old. And I'm very excited about that. So I hope you will check out our website and our YouTube channel. We have three wonderful writers sharing their work with us tonight. And our first reader is Elan Barnehama. His new novel, Escape Route, set in 1960s New York City, is narrated by the son of Holocaust survivors who are obsessed with the Vietnam War and finding an escape route for when he believes US will round up Jews. His words are in DrunkMonkeys, RoughCutPress, BostonAccent, JewishFiction, RedFez, Huffington Post, and other places. He has taught college writing, worked with at-risk youth, was a radio news guy, and a mediocre short order cook. And I give you Elan.
And thanks for having everyone here, Gloria, and thanks for all of you for showing up. So this is my second novel, and as Gloria said, it takes place in the late 60s and narrated by a teenager. And I'm going to read part from the beginning of the novel. All the chapter titles are songs that came out between the year 68 to 70. They had to come out before the chapter occurred, otherwise they didn't use it, and that was kind of fun doing it. So this one is The Times They Are Changing. Chapter 1 is where the book begins. Revolution is in the air, Ali said, and it smells good. She was leaning against my bedroom door the night before my bar mitzvah. I was in my room practicing my part for the service, and it was Allie's first visit back home since she left for Columbia University. She didn't even return for the high holidays. My parents hadn't mentioned she was coming, and likely she didn't tell them. She just showed up, but I was glad she remembered. You ought to get some posters in here, Allie said. She wandered aimlessly around my room, picking stuff up, putting stuff down. Her mind appeared to be wandering too, a lot. Posters, I said? Anything, Dylan, Hendrix, Mao. Mao? I reached for a t-shirt on my floor and slipped it on, and then stuffed the crying of lot under my mattress so Allie wouldn't quiz me about it. It was her copy and I had borrowed it from her shelves, and even though I hardly understood anything I was reading, it was the best damn thing I'd ever read. Not Che, Allie said, Jim Morrison. Why not Che, I asked. How about Tom Seaver? You're funny, she said. You were always funny. I wasn't trying to be funny. I wasn't even sure what was funny. What's that crap you're listening to, Zach? She sat down next to me. Her long brown hair woven in a braid reached all the way to my mattress. And at that moment, I noticed she was pretty. Jonah, my neighbor and my best friend since, well, always, had gotten a giant crush on her, which he insisted on telling me about in great detail, no matter how many times I told him that I preferred he keep his creepy thoughts about my sister to himself. You have got to change the station, she said. Change it to what? I asked. Zach, she said abruptly. I waited for her to continue, but she didn't say a thing. It was like Allie had a point that she kept losing. Zach, she said again. This time she looked at me. You're becoming a man tomorrow, so you may as well grow up. Okay, I was not following at all what she was saying, at all. And then she leaned across me and flipped the white dial on my brown plastic transistor radio from AM to FM. What does the radio have to do with my bar mitzvah? I asked as she adjusted the dial. Stop talking, Zach, just listen. Her voice trailed off, just listen. She repeated as she found the station. The DJ, Paul Jacobs, was talking calmly. He read from a list of meetings and gatherings and happenings around New York. He mentioned places I'd never been to and causes I'd never heard of. And then Jacobs put it on a record and dropped the needle on Dylan. My mind exploded as it tried to wrap itself around ideas being used as maps. Each line cried out with consequences. I raced to try to keep up with every word. Lies and jealousy and mutiny and equality Dylan spoke those words like they were wedding vows and with greater understanding than I could gather up. When the song ended, I was feeling much younger than before Allie walked into my room. Was Dylan right? Was my bar mitzvah simply a trick to get me to think that I had a tribe to protect? The ritual had been set in motion centuries earlier, and the next morning I would step up on the bima and recite a prescribed sequence of words from ancient texts that I had memorized for the occasion, and in response, I would be granted privileges and assigned responsibilities of an adult male member of the tribe. Had I been deceived into picking sides, into taking a false stance? What were the sides? I leaned back exhausted as Paul Jacobs calmly introduced a Phil Oakes tune. I had never heard of Phil Oakes. There was so much more happening here with so much less noise than the AM station Allie had muted. And I was wondering how I did not know that this other world had been inside my radio all along. You weren't ready, Allie told me. Ready for what? High school next year, right? 10th grade? Yeah, I said. Allie stood and went to my bookshelf. She put on my Brooklyn Dodgers hat. Then she picked up my Johnny Padres baseball and rolled it around in her hand. You can have the hat, I said. I'm a Mets fan now. Because my father couldn't, Allie used to play catch with me when I was little. She had a good arm and she was a lefty, but she never played sports. You hang on to it, she said. It's not about the Dodgers, it's about your story. Besides, I bet it finally fits you. Allie replaced the ball next to the framed picture of the Dodgers celebrating Brooklyn's only championship, and she slipped the hat onto my head. Leave the hat on, Uncle Herb will be glad to see you wearing it. She was right. He's going to tell the story, I said. He'll tell it whether you wear the hat or not, she laughed. Come on, they were already here when I arrived and they wanted me to get you to come eat. I followed Allie down the stairs. You're just in time, my mom said as we entered the dining room. We were ready to eat now. While my mom and her sister served everyone gefilte fish, Uncle Herb wished me a happy birthday. I was there, you know, he said. There, Allie laughed. Where? I laughed too. Don't encourage him, our dad said. Look, I was also there when you were born, Allison, Uncle Herb said to Allie, but today is Zach's birthday. He turned to me. I was there when the doctor pulled you out. I was there when the doctor said you were Brooklyn's lucky charm. Uncle Herb retold the story of his version of my birth, something he did every year on my birthday. The doctor brought a TV into the delivery room so he could watch the World Series. He wanted me to keep my legs crossed, my mom said. He didn't want to miss the final 3 innings of the Game 7 of the '55 World Series. I have a question for everyone, Allie interrupted. Why do we celebrate bar mitzvahs at the age of 13? Please, no politics tonight, Allie, my father said. It's not politics, Dad, it's Judaism. I was pretty sure Allie knew that every discussion she started about religion turned into an argument about politics. I was also pretty sure that my dad knew she wasn't going to stop. Nobody has a guess, Allie went on. What about you, Zach? You're the bar mitzvah boy. I am, I laughed nervously. Didn't they teach you this, Allie went on. They did not, I assured her. The question never came up. But it was a good question, I told her, and I thought to myself, it seemed like the kind of useful information the rabbi might have passed along. Leave the kid alone, our grandpa Isaac said to Allie. He's got enough to worry about. Wait, what? Why did he say that? What was I supposed to be worrying about? The part he left out, Zach, my father said, is that you don't technically have to do anything to become bar mitzvah. I don't? There's no ritual requirement. I'm not following, I said. Didn't I just study for 9 months? You just have to turn 13, my father said. Just to be clear, you're telling me that all the studying I'd be doing was not required. Nope, not required, my father said. All right, this is information I could have used earlier. Why, my father said, what would it have changed? He was right. Required or not, God or not, I was going to follow through with my bar mitzvah. It was part of a contract I had apparently agreed to before I was born. It was non-negotiable the same way I apparently agreed to let a stranger snip off some of my foreskin on my 8th day experience sunlight. So I practiced and I studied and I learned and I memorized and rehearsed and didn't question anything about my role in the Saturday morning ceremony that would add me to a list of adult male members of the tribe of Aaron, the tribe that honored a God that allowed the Holocaust, a God that looked away as my father got polio and became confined to a wheelchair. The tribe had survived for thousands and thousands of years and countless attempts to get rid of it. So who was I to mess with a streak? That's all true, Allie said, but the real question is, why does bar mitzvah take place at 13 and why do girls get bat mitzvah at 12? We mature quicker than boys, Aunt Sadie said. We certainly do, Allie said, looking quite satisfied. And everybody seemed to relax, happy that Allie had made her point without any casualties, and now we could enjoy our feast. It's about physical maturity, Allie said. She wasn't done. It's about making babies. That relaxed state evaporated in an instant. I started a body count. This was kind of funny. Boys can have babies at 13, girls at 12. Allie paused to make sure everyone was paying attention. She was working her audience. In the old days, you became a man when you could be fruitful and multiply. I can multiply and divide, I said, and everyone laughed except Allie. Maybe she forgot I was in honors math. Begot and beget, Allie continued. Forgot and forget, my father responded. Allie, enough. Becoming a man is about being able to make more Jews, Allie said, about being able to procreate. It's important that we make more Jewish babies, my father said. We have a lot of catching up to do. They can't make babies alone, my mother said. Exactly, Allie said. I think my mother was imagining the grandchildren Allie was supposed to get around to giving her. You have to realize, our grandpa Isaac said, that the laws and customs and rituals and traditions are very old. They were created by people who rode around on camels and didn't have indoor plumbing. Back then, people grew up quicker, they died young, and making babies was necessary for survival. Okay, I said, so I don't have to have a baby. Make a baby. That's a relief. I got another laugh and the night was still young. I'm with you there, little brother, Allie said. I have no intention of ever having a kid. The thing is, this time I was trying to be funny. This time I did think we were joking. Instead, I walked right into something. What's this about, Grandpa Isaac asked. He put down his fork and leaned heavily on the table, giving his eldest grandchild all his attention. The world's too screwed up, Grandpa, Allie said. There's too many people in it already and disasters too certain for me to bring new life into it. That would be irresponsible. So, our father said, your mother and I are irresponsible for bringing you and Zach into the world. No, Ellie said, that was your choice and this is mine. Being responsible and being able to control everything is not the same, Allie, Grandpa Isaac said. He picked up his fork and continued eating. I can't stop my kid from being dragged away by death squads in the middle of the night, Allie said. I can't promise them that the ovens have been turned off, that the gas chambers have been raised. I can't guarantee that they won't starve or get cancer or be vaporized in a nuclear blast. I couldn't look my kid in the eye and tell him that I could protect him. For that, they would need a God, and I could not assure him that any exist. Can you? And that's where I'll pause.
Okay, thank you, Elan. And our next reader is Stephen Ostrowski. He's Professor Emeritus at Central Connecticut State University, is widely published. He's a fiction writer and painter also. He is winner of the 2021 Wolfson Chapbook Prize for Persons of Interest Poems. He's also the author of 5 additional chapbooks, including Seen Unseen by Cervena Barva Press, co-authored with his son, Ben. Stephen and Ben went on to co-author a full-length volume called Penultimate Human Constellation. Stephen's first novel, The Highway of Spirit and Bone, is forthcoming from Lafora Books. And I give you Stephen.
Thank you so much, Gloria. Thanks for having me. It's a real honor to be here. And Benjamin and I both thank you again for publishing our first collaborative work. So I'm going to read poems today. And the first one I'm going to read is actually, I'm mostly going to read from Persons of Interest, the new chapbook, but this one was just recently published in the Lilly Poetry Review. I've been working on a manuscript of prose poems, and this is a prose poem. It's called The Aging Process. It's the noticing. It's the electric angles and magnetic turns the sun takes all day so your pixels can spark. It's touching your lover again, astonished for the 1000th time, renewed like authentic shyness. It's another redemption story unfolding in the garden, told by flower bells in shadowless sun. It's a song about the pleasure-guilty foretaste of innocence and remembering what you expected of tomorrow and then forgot until now. It's the rubbing of your eyes in the morning and at evening, the sweet humility of lowering your knees to the floor, belief and unbelief truced and twined with prayer-like acceptance. It's the kids and the kids' kids lining up for kisses. It's that just today you noticed there's a wooden house with a wide porch set way back in the woods, all weedy, overgrown, decrepit, wayward, noble, gorgeous. It's wondering why all these years you drove this curling green undulation of a road, your favorite road on earth, that house was always there and you never noticed it. It's the noticing now. This is persons of interest. And as Gloria said, I was very fortunate to win the Wolfson Press Chapbook Prize last year. It just got published in September. And it's full of poems about people who have influenced me or people who are very close to me or people I have problems with, a whole array of, those are the persons of interest. Elan mentioned how Bob Dylan played a big role in chapter 1 of his wonderful novel. Bob Dylan was a big influence of mine. I chose not to, I have a Dylan poem here that opens the book, but I chose not to read it tonight because I've been reading it a lot and I wanted to test my vocal cords on some other poems in the book. But if you like Bob Dylan, get the book. Anyway, this is called Poem for the Reader of This Poem. Thank you. I know you've put your destiny or your lunch or the reading of some other poem, maybe by someone you've actually heard of, on hold for me. I sure don't want to disappoint you. I myself have kissed 1,000 faces of disappointment. I've skipped words, lines, stanzas, impatient for a payoff, only to skim the dry lips of disappointment yet again. Reader, I feel like telling you my secrets. Secrets about my great inadequacy, my less than noble reasons, why my eyes are closed. But even more, I feel like asking you to tell me one of yours, one of the ones that most needs letting out after being so long held in, like breath under water that hurts almost to death. Let now come the secret telling that's like the saving gasp of air. If it's easier, you can tell me like this, using my words to count as yours. In fact, let's say it together. I haven't loved enough. I know selfishness like a sister. If sin is real, I have been weighted to stone with it. But reader, listen. I love you no matter what harm you've done. I love you even if you've murdered a starfish. I love you even if you've closed the door and shut the lights. I love you in your thick rolling fog and on your lonely sand dune and during those nights when you're shuttered on the other side of every window against storms of your own sadness. Reader, are you still here? Many would be gone by now. Most never would have come. Thank you for coming, staying. Here we are, one line from the end, and I miss you already. This is called, a lot of the persons of interest were musical acts that I liked a lot growing up and as a young man. This one is kind of influenced by Lennon and McCartney, and in particular the song If I Fell. It's called Leaf, Fire, A Kind of Vague Sorrow, and Lennon and McCartney. And it's autumnal, so it's probably appropriate for this time of year. Working from the room upstairs, the room where the outside comes in, the room with the wide window, and October almost over. Down there, the trees shed dying fire into sheets of cold-hearted gusts. Up here, beetles on soft. Just now, if I fell. If I did, from this far up, the fall would break my bones. Up here, wind and wine find their way somehow right through the glass, come in all sense and sound. Up here, I notice how scorched in scarlet the yellowed grass receives what falls, and how this harmony breaks me, and how I've learned to stand the pain. The last line of If I Fell is, "'Cause I couldn't stand the pain." So that's where that comes from. I was fortunate in the late 80s to take a course with Allen Ginsberg. And this is a poem I dedicate to what it was like to be a student in his little seminar at Brooklyn College. Allen Ginsberg. Mustard stain on tie, weird goggled city god of word, guided by 20/20 inner eye and the sexy scent of eternity, compass pole ever alert for holiness and blowjobs, who thus wore his ego like a smeared halo, plugged his ear to the beat of Blake's heart and subwayed down to the college in Brooklyn where we, his acolytes, unilluminated understudies of slant saints, waited in a big tabled room, nervously fingering the contents of our bags of untried linguistic yelps, which, when he arrived a little late, he kindly asked us to open. "Illuminate me," he sang. We stared at the wiggy smile beneath the gray-black nest of beard, at the super magnified brown planets that were his eyes, and astonished and maybe a little afraid, we opened. The last poem in this book is called Ars Poetica, in which I guess I attempt to explain how poetry got its grips on me. Ars Poetica. Because Port Richmond demanded that particular form of strangeness from every 709th kid. My luck. Otherwise, I'd be sentenced to beers and smoke with the misfits under the Bayonne Bridge, blurred and waiting for John Gramino to jump into the river with a millstone chained to his breakup heart. I was there anyway, and because every aching adolescent night, Bob Dylan sang through my older brother's closed bedroom door, and I said, "Wait, you can even say that?" And Dylan answered by saying it even stranger. And because one stuffy classroom afternoon, under the abstracted influence of naked songs and death by love, I finally wrote my risk in words. And my English teacher's head tipped after I finished reading, and her eyes waited for mine to lift. And she said, slowly, even a little sexily, "Read that again, Stephen." And I'm going to finish with just one poem from Seen Unseen, which Gloria published, and for which Benjamin and I are always grateful. It's a father-son kind of correspondence in poems. But this one I wanted to read just because it talks about Susan and I have 3 children, Benjamin, his sister Ramona, and his little brother Dev, who's now 22, who is adopted from Haiti. So you need to know that to understand the poem. And we made several trips to Haiti when we were in the adoption process, which was quite difficult. But the kids came with us, and even though there were some risky moments and things, it was a really great experience. And eventually we finally did get to bring Dev home. So this is kind of about that process. It's called, well, it's not called anything. The poem doesn't have a title. Brief nostalgia dream. You and your giggly-eyed sister, little backseat astonishments, violin chins, pink clouds of idea, wonder, wondering wonder, like some new kind of faith. And how we took you both to the third world and passed through kidnapped shacks where thin-armed saints boiled water for hope, until we could bring back a brother who looked like Haiti's Harold and the Purple Crayon, and how we all learned the broken Creole word for love. Thank you all. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Stephen. And our last reader for this evening is Cammy Thomas. Her newest collection is Tremors from Four-Way Books, and it came out last year. Her first book, Cathedral of Wish, received the Norma Barber First Book Award from the Poetry Society of America. A fellowship from the Ragdale Foundation helped her complete her second, Inscriptions. Last spring, Far Past War, an orchestral setting of her poems composed by her sister, Augusta Reed Thomas, premiered at Washington, D.C.'s National Cathedral, and she lives in Bolton. And I give you Cammy.
Thank you so much, Gloria, and thanks to everybody for coming. Thanks to Gloria really for everything. She's done so much for poetry in Somerville, publishing for a long time and having about a zillion readings a year. It's amazing. I don't know how you put them all on. And also it's been really nice to hear my fellow readers. So thank you for that. Tonight, it's been about a year since Tremors came out, so I'm kind of going to do a little retrospective reading from previous books through Tremors, and then finish with just a couple of poems from each, and then finish with some new poems. For those of you who don't know, mostly I write family poems about my family of origin, I guess you could say, and they're mostly kind of short. And the first few are from Cathedral of Wish, and this is the very first poem in that book. It's called Hunting. His black days, he fed us pheasant, shot in fields behind the house, mudroom shotgun oiled black, slick bolt pulled back, hung the birds in the garage to season, trembled as he plucked their blue-green plumes. Oh, it tasted tender, that darkest meat, squawk and talon. Sometimes we spat a pellet or two. I'm hearing some noise. I don't know where from.
Will everybody make sure you're muted, please? I hear it also like feedback too.
There we go. Okay, great. Thank you so much. Sorry. And just because of Bob Dylan, I don't have Bob Dylan, but I've got a Grateful Dead poem, so I'm going to read my Grateful Dead poem now. And it's called Not Fade Away, which is the title of a Dead song. Very good one. Not Fade Away. In his rented garden, he grows acrid marigolds 4 feet high, with flowers big as faces, and squashes whose vines twine up the trees. You'd have to climb for the fruit. His mother's old car coughs in the garage on bald wheels. Sitting on a sprung silk sofa, he puts back another beer, headset cranking the Dead, Not Fade Away. Flowers so bright at dusk, they sting his eyes. His roses bloom impossibly, hot red heads pushing perfume past canes of thorns. Vacation. My sisters come for dinner of lobsters cracked with a hammer. When it rains, we swim in the pool where a few toads die every night. Mornings, we get the skimmer and flip them into the woods. Under boiling white clouds, the orchestra plays Overture to the Wasps. All night, the fan goes, sounding like a highway. In the fields, bees refuse to return to their tiny cells. Now I'm going to read just a few from inscriptions. This is about my dad. It's called Man and Horse. When he approached, she shook as if doused with ice water, eyes rolling, mouth working the bit. He rode sitting back on her kidneys, using his great weight to wear her out. Because she held her neck too high, he fixed a leather line from bit to chest and pulled her head down. Dancing sideways under him, she rubbed against trees and fences, and every time she bucked him off, her ears turned toward his gasp. Her green shoes. Her grass green shoes pass through our closets, their tongues broken. We hover over them, expecting them to stir like stalks in wind. Our mother wore them to go dancing, slender in a pale silk dress, and wore them when she went for good. Click, click, her heels. This is about my aunt. It's called Ring. The ring you always wore, diamonds and cabochon emerald, a cold thing coming to me. After your accident, I got it back in a hazard bag, bloody from your fingers. Dizzy arcade, disc whose watery light comes from the wearer. Someone twisted it off your finger and gave it to me in its final hard sweetness. If I suspend it around my neck, this metal O, my empty disc that made it through the wreck, will your strong grip pull me to you in that small green stone? Will it drown me? A few from Tremors, the most recent book. And this first poem is rhymed, which not all of mine are, as you can tell. And also, I have to say, it sort of fell on me out of the clouds. I had very little say for this one. And it's called The Eye of the Malign. The eye of the malign is a cold blue eye that stares from the heart of every scene. It laughs when you cry and cries when you laugh, like no other eye that's ever been. The symmetries of evil, little sport and big, flash on the eye's cold screen. If you let it in to where you live, it will burn a hole without being seen. Sometimes it looks out from the waist of a dress on a woman in the dust, or it's on a ship too long at sea where the decking has turned to rust. Babies see it when they wake at night, if strangers come to their cries. Horses patient in a dusky field run off if it's in the sunrise. Which way you turn doesn't matter in the end. The eye of the malign is there. Its saving grace, if grace there is that its gaze goes everywhere. Possessed. I should say, I grew up on Long Island. This is one of several Long Island poems. Possessed. Long Island Sound had red tides, but we didn't care, swam anyway. I was always hungry for the rare burgers at the beach club, a pile of buttery rice, high water diving board. We had a Rolls at one point, got sand in it, bumped across the wood bridge over the swamp, bouncing on British Springs. Of course, it got repossessed. We loved the hymns in church, crooned like wild wolves, hair uncombed, hungry eyes, dressed all cockeyed, clink of beach rocks under our feet. Ivy grew through the screens. Dad boffed the lady next door while Mom played cowboy songs on the guitar. Poor Wrangler Joe, and see them tumbling down. Bees stung in the lawn. I moved to a new house recently, and this is a meditation on the suburbs. Kind of. Chilling kills. I'm a killer from my living room among my lovely things, a killer swimming in a cool pool, trying not to hurt anyone. Under my own tall trees, a killer. Everything about me kills, even in my everyday shoes, even in my cool pool. In my living room, I take it as a given. Nothing wicked comes. Mowers mowing. I vacuum dust away while somehow killing. I take it as a given how clean we keep it, how wicked. These chilling kills of people I don't see because I'm vacuuming. How clean we keep it, my America, how free of weeds. My new neighbors are here. I hope they don't take against me from what I just said about the suburbs. Oh, they're shocked. Oh, no. And then this is a one pandemic poem about a great horned owl, as I think you'll see. In the 4th month of the pandemic, up comes the huge tufted head, cocked to the side. She seems to stare at me from the top of the pine tree. Round yellow eyes with thick brows, broad honey-colored chest. Eases out a wing, ducks her head under, rhythmically cleaning. I want to stay until dusk, watch her lethal, silent descent on prey in the field next door. Everything must still look okay through her eyes. Small me far below, pulling up my mask in the carless street. And then just a few new poems. Himself. My daughter Claire made a sun, ignited a fire in slowest night. He brings a new flag, bigger than the moon. His father folds him into the wind. He will be himself, made of his own points and positions. Sometimes he'll fan the fire, sometimes walk the waves, sometimes open his flags in fields. In deep cedars by a lake with herons, he'll cover ragged ground, range near flames. His makers will meet him in clover. Look out. I saw a ship floating above the sea, all one light color blue. It was where my brother went when he left, and I will never, never see him again, except like this, a blue absence, a ship that appears but does not arrive. Refuge. I'm in a country of refuge. Lovely lawns, always a warm embrace here. Not that I know anyone, but the days are sunny. Everyone has projects. There's plenty of space, some cross-pollination. My neighbor hybridizes daylilies. Only on TV do we see bloody classrooms, parents holding photographs. In the wildlife refuge below, I've heard cars honking, guns firing. You can shoot deer, foxes, coyotes, ducks, but only in season. Filing past us in the marsh, a family dressed in camouflage, the dad with his rifle over his shoulder. And then another family passed, their little boy's hat shaped like a fox's head. And this is the last thing I'm going to read, and it's really terrific that my sister Augusta, I think maybe she had to go. She was here. Well, anyway, there was talk in the beginning about this poems that I wrote that she set to music, and these are the poems. I'm just reading them for that reason. And it's 2 poems, and they're called collectively Far Past War. And I should just say that she commissioned these from me, and every single thing about them was something I don't usually do. So it was really fun to write them. Far Past War. 1. In love with the sun. I'm in love with the sun. Ave, ave. Early and late, I fly at the sky. The sun's rays in my eye. Ave, ave. I can't stare straight at my desire, only sideways. I go round and round, the source of all, the brightest way. Ave, ave. 2. Far Past War. Ah, sun, oh, moon, we crave peace. Heron standing in the lake, say to the moon, no more war, no war, we crave. Great blue heron, wide her veil of wings, glide down night, sail over sun, drop far past war, take us too. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Cammy. What a wonderful night. I'm going to put you all on gallery view now. There we go. Anyway, can we give the readers one more hand of applause? Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone for coming. And that'll be it for tonight. If you want to say a few words to the readers, you're welcome to do that. And I'm going to turn off the recording, so you don't have to worry about that.